Welcome to our channel. Today we will tell about America's female serial killer, Aileen Wuornos. Please click subscribe button to see more content like this. Aileen Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956 in Michigan. Her mother, Diane Wuornos, was 14 when she married 16-year-old Leo Pittman. Aileen's older brother, Keith, was born on March 14, 1955. After less than 2 years of marriage, or 2 months before Aileen was born, Diane filed for divorce. When Aileen Wuornos was born, she never got to meet her father because he was in prison. Leo Pittman was diagnosed as schizophrenic and was later convicted of sexual crimes against children. He committed suicide by hanging himself in prison on January 30, 1969. In January 1960, Wuornos' mother Diane abandoned her children and left them with her parents. Aileen's both grandparents were alcoholic. When Aileen Wuornos turned 11, she began engaging in sexual activities at school in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food. Aileen Wuornos said her alcoholic grandfather sexually abused her and beat her when she was a child. In 1970, at the age of 14, Wuornos was raped by her grandfather's friend. She became pregnant after this attack. Wuornos gave birth to a boy at a home for unwed mothers on March 23, 1971, and the child was placed for adoption. A few months after the birth of his son, her grandmother passed away. She dropped out of school at that time. When Wuornos was 15, her grandfather kicked her out of the house, and in order to survive, she worked as a sex worker and lived in a nearby forest. On May 27, 1974, at the age of 18, Wuornos was arrested on charges of driving under the influence, unlawful conduct, and firing a gun from a moving vehicle. She did not show up to court on the day of the trial, thus received an additional sentence. While hitchhiking to Florida in 1976, Wuornos met 69-year-old yacht club president Louis Gratz Fell. They got married quickly. However, even after her marriage, she was constantly getting into fights, which resulted in her going to prison for a short time. After getting out of the prison, she hit Fell with his own cane. Issued a restraining order against her. After this, she returned to Michigan and was arrested in Bernie's Club on July 14, 1976. She was accused of throwing a cue ball at the bartender's head and was arrested. During this time, Fellon's divorce proceedings were completed. After her brother Keith died of cancer in July, Wuornos received $10,000 from his insurance. She spent the inherited money on luxury goods and drugs. During those years, she was accused of committing various crimes. The arrest continued in a short time. In the following years, she dated a woman she met in a lesbian bar. They started living together. Wuornos was in love, but at the same time, she continued doing sex work. She killed her first victim during this period. She killed 7 people in the period of 12 months. Her victims were the men hiring her for sex work. Her first murder could be considered a self-defense, as the person named Charles Mallory, who was wanted by police for rape, tried to rape Wuornos. Count his first murder as a self-defense. She killed all her victims by shooting them. On January 19, 1991, Wuornos was arrested at the Last Resort Biker Bar in Volusia County. Her girlfriend Moore agreed to get a confession from Wuornos in exchange for immunity from prosecution. Moore returned to Florida with the police and was placed in a motel. Under police guidance, Moore made numerous phone calls to Wuornos and asked for help clearing her name. 3 days later, on January 16, 1991, Wuornos confessed to the murders. She claimed that all her victims had tried to rape her and that she killed them in self-defense. On January 14, 1992, Wuornos went to trial for the murder of Richard Charles Mallory. On January 14, 1992, Wuornos went to trial for the murder of Richard Charles Mallory with the help of the testimony of Moore. During the trial, psychiatrists stated that she was mentally unstable and had borderline personality disorder. She was also diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. Wuornos was sentenced to death 4 days later. In 1992, she received her 5th death sentence. In February 1993, Wuornos pleaded guilty to the murder of Walter Geno Antonio and was sentenced to death again. She told inconsistent stories about her murders. She initially claimed that 7 of her men raped her while she was working as a sex worker, but then withdrew her claim of self-defense, admitting that she robbed that and didn't want to leave a witness. She was evaluated using the psychopathy checklist. Wuornos scored 32 out of 40 checklists that evaluated a list of antisocial and interpersonal behaviors. Each item was rated 0, 1, or 2. She got 32 points from this test. The test also revealed that she met the criteria for determining borderline personality and antisocial personality disorder. She was sentenced to death in Florida and was then transferred to the Florida State Prison for execution. She appealed a petition to the Florida Supreme Court, but her appeal was denied. In a petition in 2001, Wuornos expressed her decision to terminate her pending appeals, stating that "I killed those men, I robbed them in cold blood and would do it again. There's no point in letting me live because I could kill again. I hate being me too. I'm so sick of hearing things like she's crazy. I have been evaluated many times. I am competent, I am sane, and I am trying to tell the truth." There was a terrible anger underneath everything I have done. I'm one who seriously hates human life and would kill again. She then stated that if set free, she would kill again, and she should be executed. She gave an interview to Robert K. Wrestler, who was making a biographical film about her. During the interview, Wuornos said that she was tortured and her head was crushed because of the beating. She said her treatment in the prison would worsen every time she complained about the poisoning or other abuses. She believed that these things were done to her with the intention of making her look crazy. In her last interview, she said, "Thank you, society and the cops and the system. Thank you for judging me without listening to me." Wuornos was executed by lethal injection in October 2002. She refused her last meal and instead opted for a cup of coffee. She was the 10th woman to be executed in the United States and the second to be executed in Florida since 1976 United States Supreme Court decision reinstating the death penalty. Her body was cremated and her ashes were sent to her childhood friend, who buried it under a tree in her hometown. Film director Nick Broomfield made speculation about the reasons behind Wuornos' crimes. "I think this anger developed inside her, and she was working as a sex worker. I think she had a lot of reckless encounters on the roads, and I think this anger just spilled out from inside her and finally exploded into incredible violence. That was her way of surviving. I think Aileen really believed that she had killed in self-defense. Such severe trauma, which has been linked to the development of borderline personality disorder, can also disrupt mental development, leading to the emergence of this problem," Broomfield said.